Hello, let's look at some of the developer details with regards to Statamic. If you're just getting started here in Statamic, the first two sites you should know about are statamic.com, which is their brochure site, and statamic.dev, which is their documentation site. I did just make another video about how to install it on a new machine, fumbling through things like Composer and setting up your path and all that stuff, just to show that if I can get this going, anybody can. Statamic is a CMS or content management system that is built on Laravel. Laravel is like this beloved framework in PHP that's an MVC. So it has the model, that's like all the data stuff. It's got the view, that's like all the things that hit the browser for the audience to interact with. And then it's got the controller, which is like save and update, create user, stuff like that. This is a black box to me. I don't want to deeply understand it. I want to know where the views are and move on. And so the way Statamic works is it's a Composer package. So you end up, requiring that for your overall product, and it'll install this CMS and give you a whole front end with that. The reason I'm getting into the weeds on that is because it's just fundamentally different than WordPress. With WordPress, it does try to be an all-in-one solution. So like, oh, can we build a forum with this or an LMS? Yeah, install these plugins and all that. Whereas with this technology, Statamic is just meant to be like a really high quality CMS. And if you wanted to do those other things, you actually want to move down a level and just like, what's the best forum for Laravel? And so Statamic isn't supposed to be shoehorned into everything that people try to do with WordPress. One of the products that comes alongside with Laravel is this tool called Herd. This is kind of like the equivalent to local WP. It allows you to like create some sites and configure like the version of PHP that they use, and it'll do all the domain name managing stuff. I have struggled in the past with that machine over there. I have local WP installed as well. Local WP came first, then I installed Herd, and they would fight over IP addresses and domain names and things like that. So often I would have to like restart the computer. I have a fresh computer here. This one only has Herd on it at the moment. It's working perfectly. But yeah, you can see Herd here at the top. I've got some sites installed, and I like this for projects. So, I'm building a site. I'm going to be working on that for a few weeks, few months, what have you. So that's great. And then I get the domain name. I can remember my password and all that quality of life stuff. If it's just like a quick experiment, I'll actually use a command line thing called PHP artisan serve that fires it up. I'm only working locally on an IP address. You'll see that in a bit. So Herd isn't absolutely necessary, but it is kind of nice. I got to give a shout out to laracasts.com. They have a bunch of tutorials for, I think, anything built on Laravel. But specifically, there's this course called Learn Statamic with Jack. This is Jack McDade. He's the creator of Statamic. I think he started in 2012 working on this. This tutorial can look a little bit old. It's from 2022. I think it's for Statamic version 3. We're currently on version 5, and 6 is just on the horizon. This whole tutorial is still relevant for today. I think I've gone through it all twice, and yeah, it's really helpful. He'll explain things better than I can. Statamic uses a templating language called Antlers, which is made just for this CMS. This book is written by a big Laravel guy. He's the guy who created the language itself. And I want to show you some of the details about it. Like when you want to print something to the page, like echo, it's in the double mustache brackets notation. And so, yeah, if you had a page, maybe there's like just a field called fruits and there's checkbox and you checked apples, bananas, and jerky. If you wanted to print that on the page, you would just do that in the double mustache brackets. But they have all these modifiers. So you put them through with this pipe. So ampersand list would print that out with a comma and a space until the last one, and then it does ampersand in space. Check it out. So I could look at this as a list as well. That would print out just as commas, or I could look at it a sentence list. It'll print the word and. I'm picking on this one as an example, just like if you have this modifier in your templating language, you probably have everything else too. Like this is so edge case. Or check out Slugify. This is a modifier that'll like add like URL slug type dashing, probably lower cases everything. There's also one called deslugify. Like I've not used this, but it's just like it jumps off the page to me as like the attention to detail has been invested over years. So Antlers is pretty cool. Yeah, here's title. It's really easy to write if statements. You would just like put the word if and a space before title. If title, then everything between that and like the closing double mustache / if would just be the conditional. It's really clean. Because it's built on Laravel, you actually can, I guess, use Blade as well. It looks a little bit more like PHP to me. As a design background kind of guy, this doesn't appeal to me as much. But I can see if you had an existing Laravel application, you might go that way. This is a bit tangential, but I wanted to point out builtwith.com does not recognize Statamic sites. I've checked on CMS and static site generation. And yeah, it just looks probably how any other static site could look. All of these docs are built for Statamic version 5, but you can actually switch to go to version 6. Today it looks a little bit broken, which is kind of funny. But I have to give a shout out to their Discord community. So here I am in the chat for V6. I haven't read this, but they're talking about something that's nearly unusable. Maybe it was the docs. But yeah, I just wanted to say that the Discord community, it seems as friendly an atmosphere as like a WordPress.org forum. I haven't done much with Drupal, but I found in 2008 anyway, it was a bit gatekeepy and cold in the forum. Like, how dare you ask this question without reading every other post? Okay. Anyway, yeah, Statamic, they're nice. So here's a local site that I've installed on PHP Artisan. This project was called the Peak Paster. Peak is the starter kit. A starter kit is like a pre-configuration for a Statamic site. It's kind of like in WordPress terms, a theme and plugins and custom fields and custom post types that are all sort of predefined. So you might find one for photographers. It might come with pages, photo portfolio, asset containers for where your images are going to go, tools of a certain nature and a theme. So Peak comes with some like really great presets for SEO and yeah, it's pretty nice. So I installed this to just test, can I make it easy to paste content in? So I'm going into my page blueprint, and in here I added a section called Arly tests, and I added a bard field and a code field. And these are two sets that I've been using quite a bit. A bard is like a writer, and I think that's like a Shakespeare thing, just as Gutenberg was also a Shakespeare thing. Anyway, bard is a way to put content into a page, and the way I use it is the way Gutenberg kind of works in WordPress. I never actually got along great with Gutenberg. I always thought it should just be a plugin, but essentially, my goal here was that you should be able to paste content into a field from Word, and it'll respect bold and italics and your links and your headings and tables and all this. And so, yeah, I configured all this. Bondlequib is a word that I'll type if I want to be able to find something in code. We'll look at that in a sec. But anyway, these are the buttons that I want on my editor. And so usually I'll have all of these on here except for heading level 1, because I like that to come from my the title of the post itself. So if you put all of these in, you can paste in content with that formatting. If you try and paste without, if you had an H1 in your document and you try and paste it, it actually will just strip that down to a paragraph. Like it won't add the HTML tags. So this can allow you to save a non-nerd from themselves. If you don't want them pasting a heading level 1 in here, there's no extra training needed. It'll just guard that for you. I made a change, so I'm hitting apply, I'm hitting save. I find that weird that I have to save at multiple levels, but that's how it is on version 5 at least. Now I'll show you this in the code. So here's my code editor. I'm still at the point where I can't really tell where Laravel ends and Statamic begins. I know Statamic has a lot in resources and views, and also in content, and I believe the users folder as well. And it's just by my email address, a YAML file. But I'm just going to do a search across the whole thing for the word bondlequib. That only shows up in one place. And this is the YAML file that defines that Bard preset. Anything you could do in the control panel or /cp, you could also manage from the code editor. And so, yeah, this configuration file here, I could just copy paste all this into something else, into a different project, and that's just going to work great. So that's my Bard field. My code field, likewise, it just allows me to be able to paste HTML into a project. And I think that flies in the face of some developer wisdom. It's good to separate your content from your templating and stuff, but most websites don't hit their 5th birthday. I think there's a time and place for just quickly being able to do this. I can't count the number of times that I've set up a CMS for non-nerds and then they get me to do the day-to-day operations. And so code field is kind of my permission to just work the way I'm most comfortable, which is like writing HTML in Sublime Text, copy pasting it. So I'm going to go to my pages, and if I go to paste test, I could show you, here's a replicator. You can add blocks. This came with Peak. He organized them by these tabs, but here's my Bard field. And I just pasted this from a Google Doc. And so you can see it's got my heading level 2. It doesn't have my heading level 1. It's got bold, italics, it's got links. I can click on that and click this little guy here, or Command K on my Mac just to see that link. One thing I'm not a huge fan of is the amount of spacing that's here. So I'd still have to come in here and like clean that up. That's probably how I had it looking in Google, if memory serves. But I mean, that's pretty easy. I could work with that. And now let's just take a quick look at the HTML test page. Oh, I gotta leave. And on here, you can see, I just pasted in some Tailwind. This probably came from the Tailwind Plus thing I paid for. And below that, there's Markdown. So there's the words notation, there's the table notation. And I can click visit URL, and you can see this Tailwind sure is tailwindy. That's probably Alpine right there. Yeah, and there's my Markdown rendering the way that I want it. If I go to utilities, you can see here's the cache manager. I just love that the CMS, it just comes with the stuff that you want a tool to have in 2025. I'm not adding plugins for forms and cache, and like that's what websites are for. They should have this stuff. So it just comes with it. So I can clear the whole cache. I got a little toast down here, and I could click warm. And I think that pre-visits every page, sort of pre-caches everything. What else do you want? I've not found myself wanting. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. If I did want add-ons, there's this this link here. You know, I might want this redirect add-on. I think Peak comes with one, but to add this, it just gives you the composer require. Likewise, if I go to updates, oh, I can see this. I'm 10 updates behind on this Statamic thing. Update to latest. Great, here's your composer command. So it's not doing that here. I'm not sure if that's a security thing or like just a wisdom thing. There's an expectation that you're going to be a little bit used to using the terminal. And I don't think that's gatekeeping. I think they've drawn the line in the right place as far as I'm concerned. Now I am working on my local here, so I can actually use the pro version of Statamic. You can see, you can do a lot for free, but I'm going to be working on a site with Multisite in a second. I'm going to need multiple users. So I am going to need pro. You know, it's $275 just to start that site, and then $65 every year after. Now, contrast that to WordPress. You can just go to wordpress.org, download it for free. But it's kind of a slow CMS, so you're going to have to pay more for hosting probably. I pay something like $120 a year for Gravity Forms. I pay for advanced custom fields. I've paid for WPML, backup tools, all this other stuff. So like, to me, this is a bargain. And I'm getting this site that doesn't have a database by default, so I don't have to worry about that security vector, which also means that all my content, which is saving into Markdown or YAML files, that's all in Git. So I don't know. With this, you're getting a team that doesn't owe anybody anything. Whereas I think WordPress, they're under some pressure from VC investors. So it's a bargain. It's a treat. You have all these developers just doing a great job. Yeah, I'm all for it. So anyway, on my local site here, let's turn on some of these pro features. So I'm going to go to my .env file, and this is a file that is not usually in your Git repo. It's going to have stuff like your license keys and SMTP information and all this. But I'm not going to put a license key in. I'm going to just enable Pro here. I'm going to even type it correctly. What else we got in here? There's GraphQL if you care about that. Let's turn on Git as well. And Statamic Git push. I could have this like be pushing automatically. Check this out. This is another project that I've been working on that has Git enabled. It's a paid pro license site. Anytime, I think I manually made this Git push, but like here I renamed a file and it did a Git commit just to like collection tree saved. If I scroll down, you can see like entry saved. I just created a bunch of empty pages. So the blueprint is using blog. This is the title. Here's the updated like front matter stuff. So it's kind of cool. Like the Git stuff, it means you could have a production server running. Client is logging in. They're not nerdy. They're just, updating a page. They're creating a blog post. They're pushing to Git. You go on your local, you pull that stuff down. It's like superpowers, right? So anyway, I'm going to just hit save. And now when I go back to my backend here, I just hit refresh. Now if I go to utilities, you can see Git is going on here. Nothing to commit, content paths clean. I think it's just doing it automatically in the background. I'm not sure what it takes to show something here, but yeah, it's kind of cool. And you can see there's no license key. Now I have this thing here for that. Collections is where you go for your post types. I love that just by default it only has pages. I have probably worked on hundreds of WordPress sites, and I've probably used tens of WordPress sites where it has pages and posts. So many times we just don't use posts and they're just sitting there not used. But now if I want them, I would just go here. I would just create like articles, create collection. I could create an entry right now. I could scaffold the views. So that's where like your archives would be in WordPress. That's called the index, or the single. That's what WordPress would call it. It's called the show here in Statamic. I can configure the collection. I can configure the blueprint. I'm not going to go too deep into that. You got forms here just built in natively. This one comes with the Peak starter kit. This is just showing me my entries. If I wanted to edit the blueprint, I could do that here, or edit the form from these dots, which is kind of handy. We have assets. This is where all your images go. And you can create folders and organize all that stuff. You could also create containers. And this is like pretty cool. Like I could create an S3 container. Oh, I could even type and change that from local, which would be like in Git and all that, to S3, or are there other kinds? Anyway, I haven't played much with this, but it's kind of cool that you can configure it that you're automatically publishing your files or uploading stuff to a different container. I think that could keep your Git cleaner. Yeah, we'll see. So let's take a look at another project now. I'm going to move down to this one, the Riptides. It's a punk band website. This is just running on my local right now, but this is the first Statamic site I ever did. I pushed it to my DreamHost shared server as a CMS and also as a static site. So here I've installed the static site generator add-on, and this add-on is so either common or expected that if you just do a new Statamic site install, it actually asks you if you want this add-on. If you say yes, it asks a couple more questions. So this Riptides site is basically just a one-pager. And if I want to make that be a static site, I have to cd into the folder, and I run the command php please ssg:generate. I hit enter. It does something, and it creates a folder for me. And we'll just look at that. And it just compiles that to storage/app/static, and it just made this whole folder for me. So there's my index file, my 404. I've got a web manifest and a sitemap and privacy. Oh yeah, there is a privacy page. That's just an index file in a folder. I've got files, and I I guess build probably has JavaScript and CSS. Fart.mp3 is in files, and then there's images and IMG. I don't think I've looked at this before. Oh, I did archive a page called Old Home, and that got published too. So anyway, the SSG is kind of cool. If I could just go up a folder, that whole project is 8 megs. So I don't know, how average that is. I don't know how big my MP3 file is. It's under 100K. Yeah, but static site generation. I remember when I set it up, I had some errors of some kind in the build, but I was able to get through them as like not the most savvy DevOps guy. So I think you'll do okay with it. Finally, I think I want to look at this multi-site thing. In WordPress, you could have a multi-site where you create all these different sites with different administrators. You could have different themes and plugins. They could be totally unrelated sites in a network. And I looked to do that once when I had Live Canvas, because Live Canvas allows you to create pages that look wildly different while using the least amount of plugins and code. More common uses for that, though, would be like a university. So the faculty of science and the faculty of math, they'll have different sites, and the heads of those might manage them. And then the IT team might lock down what gets changed from one thing to another. That is not essentially what it's doing for Statamic. Maybe the university thing would work, but you're not going to have these radically different sites necessarily. I believe this is made more for like, maybe like the McDonald's Corporation, where they have a Canada head office and a US head office, or French site, English site. It's supposed to be conceptually one site. And so that's what this is about. To get this going, and I've not played with this much, just maybe 20 minutes preparing for this video, I had to type a command, so PHP please multisite, and that changed some stuff. I have not read these docs. I just jumped in and went to configure sites, and my picture's in the way here. I hit add site and, typed French and all that, but it actually gave me this basically error 500 page till I read the docs. Imagine that. So I also needed to go to a file called system. Where was that? That was called config/statamic/system, and set multisite to true. And then that UI that I was just showing you is also represented here in this YAML file, just like that. Don't mind the inspector, it's just to help with picture-in-picture. Now I've got 2 sites going here. I've left config/app name, but I could change that. They give a warning here. It's non-trivial to change whatever the handle is. So you're going to want to read those docs for sure. Now when I go to my pages collection, I can see my one page, but also at the top, I see the word Statamic here. That's the name of my application at this point. So I'm going to change that to English and hit save. And now when I come over here and hit refresh, I can see I'm in English, and now I can switch and go to to French. And you can see I've made the same page in both accueil and home, depending. And so on the front end, I believe I wrote a little bit of, or I copy pasted some code rather. It's a for loop for sites. It gets the handle if it's active, I guess, and gets the URL and the handle as well. I'm adding CSS, so I need to run npm run dev. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little spacing and underline here as well. But now this is my English page, and I can click on Francais, and I've switched to that page as well, and it's going to the /fr. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And if I look at the code here, you'll see that in the content folder, collections, pages, now there's folders for English and Francais. And there's my French page, there's my English page, and it's managing all the rest. And so I get excited because I really like being able to use a CMS to just quickly build things. And then I like to use my code editor to refine things. I really like editing multiple files all at once. And so I just get excited at the idea of how could you just rapidly convert one thing to another? It's kind of interesting. Finally, I want to give a huge shout out to this YouTube channel called From WordPress to Statamic. I talked to Michael on a call once. He started doing this before any of the WordPress drama. Like he just was doing this because as a developer, he just loves Statamic and how it works so much more. But yeah, he's publishing pretty regularly. A couple days ago, he did one using the WordPress importer. So you export a CSV of your content. You can import it into here. It helps you to map your fields from one thing to another. You can do a test run. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's worth checking out as well. The last thing I want to say about Statamic is like, if you're in the back of the CMS, type shift plus question mark. I guess that's shift / Anyway, I don't have labels on my keyboard, which is unhelpful. But this shows you all the keyboard shortcuts. There's things like, I could see that I could type a / there, and I could type, can I type home and go to English? Yeah, so I'm editing that. Anyway, there's delightful little keyboard shortcuts in there. So yeah, explore it a bit. All the little nice quality of life features just seem to be there. I'm in a freshly installed Statamic site that does not use a starter kit. And if I go to layout.antlers.html, you can see this is where it was getting like that home page. It's pulling in all of the content with template_content here. You can see there's the language switcher that I wrote, and then it's just pulling in your JavaScript CSS with this Vite tag here. There's a default template that's just getting content. Is there a home template? Yeah, I guess the default homepage is using this home template. That's the Statamic logo there. Content with the modifier of without. That probably is preventing a single word from wrapping like a typography widow. I have found that this gets more and more intuitive the more that you do with it. I have mostly fuzzy search, so I am still a bit of a stranger to this kind of way of looking for things, but yeah, there's a 404. It's pretty cool. Switching CMSs is a major headache if you're really comfortable with a tool. But when things started to unravel for WordPress, I knew I needed to have a second favorite pretty soon. I don't like to switch systems unless there's like a 2 to 10x improvement. And I think that Statamic might actually have that, or at least the whole network of Statamic and Laravel and Tailwind and some of the other tools. I have found it quite a delight to work in. I am not the most developer or DevOps savvy guy, but I'm able to get around without being too stumped too often. So I definitely think it is worth looking at. I want to do some more of these videos. So if you have questions or other things that you want to see, how do you do that in Statamic? Put them in the comments below. I probably don't know how to do it yet, but I might be able to figure it out for another quick video like this. Happy developing.